Yo, what's going on, guys? Tomahawk Warrior here, and we're back doing another MTG Historic Brawl deck. This time we're using Liesa, the Forgotten Archangel, as my commander and my Lifegain Shenanigans deck. So, Liesa, the Forgotten Archangel is currently standing in for Liesa, Shroud of the Dust, the commander that I actually use in real life. I do think she fits a lot better in this deck. However, I did want to make this deck in Arena as close as I could. So, basically, most of the cards you're going to see in this deck are in my real life deck. However, obviously there are cards that aren't in MTG Arena that are live in the real world. So, with that in mind, I decided to use Liesa the Forgotten Archangel as my commander. So, Liesa is a 5 cost, 4/5 flying lifelink angel. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So, what this deck is going to do is going to try to get some sort of life gain shenanigans going, either using life control to either keep us going through the game till we get a win condition online, or using it to where we have such a huge life advantage over our opponent, it doesn't really matter what they're going to do. Um, we do obviously have the auto wins like Aetherflux Reservoir, Veto, but that's the theme of the deck. So, with that being said, like I said, we have Liesa as our commander. Next, we have Yajani's Welcome. Obviously, because it's a 1 cost, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Authority of the Consuls, same thing, except my opponent's creatures enter the battlefield tapped. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under my opponent's control, I gain a life. And then we have Cleric's Class. Whenever I would gain a life, I gain that much life plus 1. I can make it go to level 2 for 4 mana. Whenever I gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That is the important thing. It will allow your small creatures that you get out early game to get super big pretty quick in this deck. Or you can give it to something that, like Liesa, that's flying, that my opponent can't deal with because they don't have reach or flying, and just let her just swing over top of all their board and do lots of damage. Or for 5, I can put it to level 3. When it becomes level 3, return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Now, not often am I going to use this level 3, but it still is good to have that utility there if needed. Normally, you're just going to keep it level 1, and then when you have the mana, you're going to put it to level 2. Finally, we run Soul Warden because we don't have both of the Soul Sisters in the game, so we just run Soul Warden. We have Speaker of the Heavens. It's a 1 cost human cleric with Vigilance and Lifelink. You can tap, create a 4/4 White Angel creature token with flying. Activate only if you have 7 more life than your starting life total, and only as a source, only at sorcery speed. So helps us get angel tokens to block, defend, attack with. And basically everything in this deck is either going to have life gain or generate some sort of life advantage. So this card is going to be really good once it gets on the field and starts tapping for angels. Obviously, because we are in white, we have to run our 1 Swords to Plowshare. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Just use it to deal with whatever your opponent has that's big and scary. Next, we have Yajani's Pridemate. It is a 2/2 cat soldier for 2. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Yajani's Primate. Pretty obvious to see why this card's good in a deck that has life gain. This card can get super huge, super quick, becomes a problem, forces your opponent to deal with it, allowing you to get other things on the board that are better. Next, we have Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. It is a 2 cost demigod. Its toughness is equal to my devotion to white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield or dies, I gain a life. This card is a great blocker, generates me life advantage, and then once I get lots of cards on the field, as most of this deck is white, it becomes a 2/5, 2/6, 2/7, and becomes really hard for my opponent to swing over. So it works great as a little bit of a wall. We are running Griffin Aviary. It's a 2 cost enchantment. At the beginning of my end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 2/2 white Griffin creature token with flying. Puts a bunch of Griffins on the field. Normally, you're just going to use them to block because they're only 2/2s. However, if your opponent has nothing, you go ahead and swing with them. But normally, it's just whatever my cards are usually doing things. So they're usually tapped in my opponent's turn. So Griffin Aviary, because I'm gaining life, generates me a Griffin token. I can use that to block, deal with my opponent's big scary things, what have you. Next, we run Hushbringer. It's a 2 cost, 2/1 flying lifelink fairy. Creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. So you do have to be careful with this card because it will stop stuff like your Yajani's Welcome, Authority Consuls, Soul Warden. When your stuff comes into the battlefield, you won't be gaining life from that. And when things die, Daxos won't be giving you life. However, it will stop your opponent's stuff as well, which is pretty key. So do be careful with this card, but this card will stop certain decks, which is why it's in the deck. It also is a flying 2/1 lifelink fairy, which isn't terrible for 2. Next we have Revitalize. It's a 2-cost instant. You gain 3 life, draw a card. Next we have Voice of the Blessed. It's a 2-cost 2/2 humans cleric, or sorry, spirit cleric. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Voice of the Blessed, as long as it has 4 counters on it or more. It has flying and vigilance, and then if it has 10 +1/+1 counters on it, it has indestructible. So this, like the Yajani's Pride Mate, just become bigger over time, become a real problem, and then if it hits the 10, it's really, really hard to deal with because it is indestructible. And usually by then you're kind of just winning the game. So it's a great card to have at all stages of the game. Next, we do run Blood Artist. It's a 2-cost vampire. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain a life. So get this out as your stuff starts, being creatures and doing things and dying. This will generate you advantage by pinging your opponent down and gaining you life. Next, we have Gargoyle's Bloodfast. It is a legendary enchantment for 2. You can pay 2 mana, pay 2 life, you draw a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less, it transforms into a legendary land where you can tap it out of black mana, or you can sacrifice a creature and you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Normally, what you're going to do with this card is just basically slap it and use it to draw your deck as quickly as possible. Keep your hand full. Paying 2 life is not an issue. Paying the 2 mana is going to be the issue for how many times you can draw. However, you're going to be replacing that life really quickly, so it's just great card advantage for the deck. Next, we have Signed in Blood. It's a 2-cost sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Like I said, this deck's all about gaining life and life shenanigans, so paying 2 life isn't an issue for this deck. So I will happily pay 2 to draw 2 cards. Next, we run Cruel Celebrant. It's a 2-cost 1/2 vampire. Whenever Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, your opponent loses 1 life, you gain a life. Like I said, you're going to have your Griffin Aviary generating your Griffins, and there's some other cards that are going to be generating you tokens, like Speaker of the Heavens. So when those tokens are dying, you're actually going to be pinging your opponent down and gaining yourself life. So cards like this are fantastic. Next, I do run D-Spark. It's a 2-cost instant. Exile target permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Next, we have Ellis Core, the Sadistic Pilgrim. It's a 2-cost Pyroxene Core Cleric with Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. You're kind of seeing the theme right now of the deck. A lot of cards, when stuff comes into the field, it generates me life, and then when it dies, certain cards are pinging my opponent down to help get my opponent low enough so we can win. So, good card. Next, we have Priest of the Fellrights. It is a 2-cost human warlock. I can pay 3 life, tap, sacrifice this card, return target creature from your grave to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. I can pay 5 to unearth it. So I can generate actually a lot of value off this card. However, with our commander Liesa, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So what you can do with Priest of Fellrights is you can sack it, get something back from the graveyard, and then with your commander, it'll actually put it back in your hand so you can then replay this. So this is a 3-cost consistent way to regen creatures from the graveyard. So it's a fantastic card to have. Your opponent is going to try to exile it as soon as possible once they see this starting to go. So do be careful. It is a way to kind of cheat out some of the bigger cards in the deck and get cards back that your opponent's killed that you need to win. Next, we have Revival and Revenge. It is a sorcery card. You can ignore the revival part. Basically, you pay 2 mana, return small creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. The reason it's in the deck is for its revenge part of the card. You double your life total. Target opponent loses half their life rounded up. So this is a fantastic card. It catches a lot of people off guard. If you have other cards in the deck like Veto, as you're gaining life, it's going to be pinging your opponent down as well. So this can actually be a win condition in and of itself, or it just reduces your opponent's life total when they're not expecting it, and you swing for game with your creatures. Really, really good card to have in the deck. Next, we do need a bit of mana fixing, so we do run Arcane Signet. It's a 2-cost artifact where you can tap, add 1 color of your commander's color identity. Next, we have Celestial Unicorn. It's a 3-cost 2/3 unicorn. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Celestial Unicorn. Next, I do run Gideon Blackblade. He's a 3-cost planeswalker. Comes in with 4 loyalty. As long as your turn, Gideon Blackblade is a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible. It's still a planeswalker. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to Gideon during your turn. You can plus them up 1. Another creature you control gains vigilance, lifelink, or indestructible to the end of turn. minus him down by 6, exile target non-land permanent. So he's a great spot removal once he's been on the field for a turn or two, and then while he's generating loyalty counters to becoming spot removal, you're giving your whatever creature you have lifelink, vigilance, indestructible. Really, really good. Basically, you're going to be giving most of your things lifelink so they can generate you life. Um, but also putting vigilance on stuff is really good. A lot of stuff in the game of yours will come in with flying, so giving it vigilance is always nice, so that ghost swings and can still defend on your opponent's turn. Um, Giving Liesa, like I said, vigilance is great because she already has the flying and the lifelink, so just make her able to block during your turn is fantastic. Obviously, because we are running Lifegain, we do have to include Heliot Suncrown. He's a 3-cost 5/5 indestructible god. As long as my devotion to white is less than 5, he isn't a creature. Not a problem. He's going to become a creature really quickly. Whenever I gain life, I put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment I control. Alternatively, I can pay 2, and another creature I control gains lifelink until the end of turn. It is a way to get Yajani, Voice of the Blessed, or Celestial Unicorn to start generating their own +1/+1 counters on them by giving them lifelink. However, you don't really need to do that with Heliod. Basically, he's a 5/5 indestructible god. You can block with him, you can attack with him, do whatever you want with him. He's next. We have Resplendent Angel, probably the most broken card in the deck. It's a 3-cost angel, 3/3 flying. At the beginning of my end step, if I gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. I can pay 6 until the end of the turn. This card gets +2/+2 in lifelink. Not really relevant. The big thing is gaining the 5 life to generate a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. So, might seem a little hard, however, it is really doable. This card is fantastically good, kind of broken. Do what you can with it when you get it out because it's not going to stay around for long. Next, we do run Righteous Valkyrie. It is a 2/4 Angel Cleric with flying. Whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. As long as you have 7 or more life than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. So having the 7 or more life than your starting life total is really easy to achieve. So Righteous Valkyrie does make all my creatures get +2/+2. It's a fantastic card. Unfortunately, we don't run that many angels in this deck currently. There are enough that angels entering the battlefield might be a relevant thing, but basically it's worn here because it's easy to maintain 7 or more life than your starting life total. So giving all my smaller things +2/+2 is great. Actually makes things like Soul Warden able to block other creatures. I will say right now, I don't run Galdia in this deck. I had her in the deck for a while, however I took her out. If you want to put her in, you can, and kind of put more angels into the deck and really kind of focus on like an angel theme, go ahead. It can still work with the life gain. Next, we run Treferi's Protection. It's a 3-cost instant. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. Exile Treferi's Protection. So a fantastic instance. Basically, if your opponent's going to swing at you for game, you can just slap this baby down. You don't lose. None of your stuff can be targeted. Or if your opponent goes to board wipe, you can play this card, protects all your stuff, and you don't take any damage. Just a good card to have. I don't know why you wouldn't put it in a white deck. Next, we have Book of Exalted Deeds. It's a 3-cost legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. You can pay 3, tap exile Book of Deeds, put an enlightened counter on target angel. It gains. You can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is a fantastic card. Gaining 3 life, super easy, so you're going to be generating 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying. And then if things are starting to look iffy, you can pay 3, sacrifice it, and basically one of your angels will basically make it so you can't lose the game. Your opponent has to somehow either kill that angel, or you have to be foolish and attack with it and they block it. It's really, really strong. There's no reason not to put this card in your deck. If you're going to do the, pay 3 and put the enlightened counter on an angel, be really careful with them because your opponent's going to try to kill them. Or just don't do that and just gain angels every turn. Next, we have Bastion of Remembrance. It's a 3-cost enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 human soldier creature token. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Really good. You're going to be using your tokens to block with, so it's going to be generating you life and pinging your opponent. Or if your opponent blows up your really, really cool board, it's going to be pinging your opponent down for quite a bit and generating you life, so that way you probably will survive whatever your opponent's going to do after they blow up the board. Next, we have Bloodthirsty Aerialist. It's a 3-cost Vampire Rogue, 2/3 with flying. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. The flying on this card makes it fantastic because it just avoids all your opponent's nonsense they have. Becomes really big, really quick. Um, like all the other cards that gain a +1/+1 counter when you gain life. Next, we do run Grim Tutor. It is a 3-cost sorcery. Search your library for a card, put it in your hand, shuffle your library, then you lose 3 life. Losing 3 life is not an issue. Getting whatever you need to win the game the following turn or that turn is really good. So the 3 life is completely irrelevant. Next, we run Marauding Blight Priest. It is a 3-cost 3/2 Vampire Cleric. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Pretty solid card because a lot of stuff will gain you a life. So if it pings multiple times, it'll ping your opponent down for 1. However, if you gain a bunch of life in one go, it won't ping your opponent down multiple times. It'll only be that once. So do kind of keep that in mind. Where cards like Revival, when you double your life total, it'll ping your opponent once. So just be careful with that. However, I think it's still a pretty solid card, so it makes the cut for the deck. Next, we have Plaguecrafter. It's a 3-cost 2/3 human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So this card is just pretty good spot removal. Bring it in. Your opponent has to sacrifice something or they discard. You can get it back if you need it with Revive or I forget that other card, sorry, that you can use to cycle to bring stuff back. Also with Liesa, once Plaguecrafter does sacrifice itself, you are going to be able to put it back in your hand with Liesa if she's on the field. So it is continual spot removal. Next, we have Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. This is a win condition card, so be careful with it. It is a 1/3 Vampire Cleric. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. You can pay 5. Creatures you control gain lifelink at the end of the turn. So you gain life, your target opponent loses that much life. So if you can somehow gain 20 life in a turn, which actually isn't that hard for this deck, your opponent just loses. So you can use the card Revenge, double your life total, so you go to 40. Your opponent loses half their life, but you gained 20 life, so your opponent's gonna lose 20 life. So you can just win. So that is one of the ways to win with this card, or just gain 20 life somehow and your opponent will lose. There are cards that you can do that with in this deck, or you just have this card out and just swing with whatever you have that can gain life, and your opponent will take a bunch of damage, and then when you gain life they'll lose life. Really, really good card. Just do whatever you can to protect him. I would suggest never swinging with this card once you get him out, and try to get as much value as you can before he does eventually die. Next, we have Indulging Patrician. It's a 3-cost 1/4 Vampire Noble, flying lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. Not as great in a 1v1 format. In a 4-way commander game, pretty good. However, you will gain the 3 life normally by the time this card gets out. So basically every turn you'll gain 3 life and your opponent will lose 3 life if you can. If not, a 1/4 flying lifelink vampire is not bad at all, so makes the cut for the deck. Next, we have Campbell, the Consul of Allocation. He is a 3-cost 2/3 human advisor. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life. You gain 2 life. So you're playing against a heavy blue deck. You're playing against red aggro removal. Every time your opponent casts something, they're going to be losing life. You gain life. Good. It'll help you weather the storm. Also, usually by the time that this card's out on the field and its effect really matters, your opponent's going to have to be really careful playing sorceries, instants, and spells of that nature, because by that point they should be down pretty low on life, and now they might have a lot of mana open, but can they afford to lose 6 life that turn to use 3 cards? This card is really good in the late game, which is where you want to play it. However, if it's in your opening hand, I mean, a 2/3 isn't bad for a blocker. Definitely put it on the field and just stop your opponent's early, shenanigans if you can. I find it to be a really good card, and yeah, it might be a little situational, but still a solid card. Next, we do run Orzhov's Locket. It's a 3-cost artifact where you can tap, add either black or white to your mana pool, or you can pay 4, sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. Next, we have Bontu's Monument. This card, if you want to remove it, put anything else in the deck, by all means, this is the card you can cut. However, I did have this card just lying around in real life, and I thought, why not put it in this deck and see how it does? It is okay. I mean, you could get better, but eh. So basically what it does, it's a 3-cost legendary artifact. Black creature spells you cast costs 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Next, we have Yajani's Strength of the Pride. It is a 4-cost planeswalker, comes in with 5 loyalty. You can plus them up and gain life equal to the number of creatures you control plus the number of planeswalkers you control. Minus them down by 2. Create a 2/2 cat soldier token named Yajani's Primate. With whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Yajani's Primate. Or if you have 15 more life than your starting life total, exile this card and each artifact and creature your opponent controls. So it is a on the spot, just board wipe specifically for your opponent. If you get this card out early, minus them down by 2 immediately to get a Yajani Primate token on the field. And then as you start gaining life in that, this card becomes just a threat. If your opponent has a big board, you board wipe. So they have to deal with this card before they can get a nice big board going, so it buys you time. Next we have Levana, Keep a Secret. It's a 4-cost 3/4 angel with flying. Activated abilities of creatures your opponent's control cannot be activated. It's a fantastic card. It's one of the few cards in the deck that doesn't have anything to do with life gain. However, its effect to just stop your opponent from activating their abilities is really strong and will absolutely screw over certain decks, which is why I think it's a must for a white-black deck. Next, we have Rhinox Faithmender. It is a 4-cost 1/5 Rhino Monk with lifelink. If you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. Really, really good card for the mid game. If you can get this card out by turn 4, it's a 1/5 blocker, so it's just a really good wall with lifelink. However, in the late game, when you start generating, 5/3 kind of amounts of life a turn, doubling that is fantastic. Getting 6 or 10 life a turn is really, really strong. Helps you to get out of control really, really quickly and set you up for your win conditions either with veto or Aetherflux. So really, really solid card to have in the deck. Obviously, because we are in white, I do run Wrath of the God. It is a 4-cost sorcery. Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. Next, we have Eradicator Valkyrie. It's a 4-cost 3/4 Angel Berserker. Flying lifelink. Hexproof from Planeswalkers. I can pay 1 and a black and boast it. Sacrifice a creature. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or Planeswalker. Really, really good because it is a 3/4 flying lifelink angel, which is already really good. However, for the boast cost, sacrificing something on my field normally kind of does hurt. However, with Liesa on the field, it will recycle that creature so I can get multiple instances of their ETBs or just save a card if need be. Basically, if it's been enchanted or it can't use its abilities, sacrifice it, put it back in my hand, put it back on the field the following turn so it's useful again. Really solid card, helps to control my opponent's board, and with Liesa on the field, it just becomes a recycling plant. Next, I do have Sangromancer. It is a 4-cost Vampire Shaman, flying 3/3. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, I gain 3 life. Whenever an opponent discards a card, I may gain 3 life, so I'm always going to be gaining life. Kind of situational, works on my opponent's stuff dying and me forcing my opponent to discard cards, but it is pretty good as a 3/3 flying vampire, so I already love it. And the life gain shenanigans the life shenanigans you can gain from this card are situational, but it does work and it comes up kind of more often than you'd think, which is why I put it in the deck. Next, we have Sheolred the Apocalypse. It is a 4-cost 4/5 Phyrexian Praetor with Death Touch. Whenever I draw a card, I gain 2 life. Whenever my opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. Really, really good card. Annoying to deal with. And losing 2 life a turn for just trying to play the game really hurts your opponents. Next, we have Athenda the Dusk Rose. Basically, I'm just going to refer to her as the Dusk Rose from now on because I probably butchered her first name. She is a 4-cost 1/1 Vampire Knight with lifelink. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on her. When she dies, create X 1/1 vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is her power. So this is a kind of pricey card for 4, but over time will generate it will get big and generate you pressure, and then when it dies, it creates just a bunch of little vampires that have lifelink, which is hysterical, because you want to be gaining life in this deck. So it's a card that becomes a problem, and then when your opponent finally tries to deal with it, usually it kind of comes back to bite them in the butt. I think it's a good card, which is why it goes in the deck. Next, we have Kaya's Wrath. It is a 4-cost sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures that you control that were destroyed this way. Obviously, we do have to run Aetherflux Reservoir in this deck. This is actually the card that I replaced Galdia with. So it's a 4-cost enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain a life. And then basically, if you have 51 life, you pay 50 of that life, and you shoot your opponent for 50 damage. This card is a win condition in and of itself. Basically, the way I'd play it is if you get it out early, it's not going to stick around for you to get the 50 life unless you really have a good hand. So basically, just use it to gain life. If you already kind of starting to while out, save the card, wait till you have the 50 life, play it, and then just shoot your opponent. At least that is the best way I have found to play this card. Next, we have Angel of Destiny. It is a 5-cost 2/6 Angel Cleric, flying double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player gain that much life. At the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 or more starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game. So it's not hard to achieve the win condition that this card is. It can be a little iffy using this card, so just do be careful with it, but it's really good pressure. I think it is well worth putting in the deck. Next, we have Baneslayer Angel. It is a 5-cost 5/5 angel with flying, first strike, lifelink, protection from demons, and protection from dragons. This card just does everything. Generates you quite a bit of life, being a 5/5 with flying. It's annoying to deal with, and then most of the creatures that would like to deal with it, demons and dragons, can't. Next, we have Crested Sunmare. It is a 5-cost 5/5 horse. Other horses you control have indestructible. So at the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. Keep in mind, it's a 5/5 horse token, so it's going to be indestructible. If you gained life, this deck gains a lot of life, so basically you're just going to have a little horde of indestructible 5/5 horses. Super fun card. Probably not going to stick around for very long once you've cast it. However, it does generate you a lot of advantage, so have fun with this card where you can. Next, we run Fumigate. It is a 5-cost sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. So it's a little bit better Chaos Wrath, because it's going to gain you 1 life for everything, not just your stuff, but your opponents as well. So if your opponent's wild out with a massive amount of goblins, play this card, gain 50 life, and basically then you're just looking to get your Aetherflux on board and shoot your opponent. Next, we have Epicure of the Blood. It is a 5-cost 4/4 vampire. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Pretty good. You're going to be gaining life. Helps you to ping your opponents down. Is expensive, so if you do want to swap it out for something else, feel free. Next, we have Exquisite Blood. Whenever your opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Combine this with Veto. It is a infinite loop that will infinitely ping your opponents down. Really good card. Fortunately, they don't have Sanguine Bonds, so you can't do the infinite loop with those 2 cards. Next, we have Gary. He is a 5-cost 2/4 zombie. When this card enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Super good card. Little harder to gain a ton of life, just because my devotion to black isn't going to be as high as it could be in this deck. There's a lot of white in this deck. However, late game when this card comes in, it can just completely catch your opponent off guard, and you can use this card as a win condition, so do not underestimate it. Next, because we are playing with black in the deck, we do have to run Sir Conrad the Grim. He is a 5-cost 5/4 human knight. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. I can pay 2. Each player mills a card. So Sir Conrad in and of himself can be a win condition as well. Whenever anything dies, he's going to be pinging my opponent for 1 damage. Whenever my opponent discards a card, he pings them for damage. Or whenever I bring something back from the graveyard, he pings my opponent for damage. So he can do some graveyard shenanigans. He's just a super good card to have in any deck that can put him in, which is why he's in this deck. Next, we have Steel Seraph. It is a 6-cost 5/4 angel. You can cast it for 3 with this prototype where it's just a 3/3. If you can pay the 6, it comes out as a 5/4 flying angel with, at the beginning of your combat, target creature you control gains your choice of flying, vigilance, or lifelink until the end of turn. Basically, if it doesn't have lifelink, you're going to be giving it lifelink. If it already has lifelink, you're going to be giving it vigilance, so it can attack, gain life, and then be a blocker on your opponent's turn. Super good card. A lot of versatility in this card. Allows your horses, if you have a bunch of them, to fly, which is hysterical. So super good card. If you have to cast it for its prototype, not the end of the world. If you can cast it for 6, great, but normally I just cast it for 3 and just kind of let it be a 3/3 angel. Next we have Valkyrie's Harbinger. It is a 6 cost 4/5 angel cleric with flying and lifelink. At the beginning of each of your end steps, if you gain 4 more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. Next we run Bolas Citadel. It is a 6 cost legendary artifact. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than its mana cost. You can tap, sacrifice 10 permanents, each opponent loses 10 life. So this is one way to cheat out these more expensive creatures like Valkyrie's Harbinger, Massacre Worm, Villas, and get them out on the field earlier than what they should be able to. The funny thing is that when you sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, you can actually catch your opponents off guard. I have seen it where my opponent, where I've swung for game, my opponents live with like 9 health or whatever, and I just blow up my own board and they lose 10 life and lose the game. It's kind of funny, catches your opponents off guard. Obviously, we do have to run Massacre Worm. It is a 6 cost 6/5 worm. When Massacre Worm enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until the end of the turn. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, that player loses 2 life. So if your opponent's playing a bunch of tokens like goblins or soldiers, put this card down, blows them all up, your opponents lose a lot of life, and Massacre Worm just goes lol. Really, really good card. Can be a win condition if played against certain decks. Next we have Villas, Broker of the Blood. It is a 8 cost 8/8 demon with flying. You can pay 1 black, pay 2 life, target creature gets -1/-1 to the end of turn. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So if you can get this card out quickly, however you can, it helps you to gain card advantage over your opponent while helping to deal with your opponent's board. It does cost 1 mana to minus your opponent's creatures down. However, it is a good way of getting rid of problematic cards. And the losing the life is not that big of a deal. Just do be careful that you don't start trying to ping down everything in one turn and then end your turn on like 3 life and lose to your opponent's lightning bolt or something silly. Next, we do have Heliod's Intervention. You choose one. You either destroy X targeted artifacts or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. So this is like your finishing card. You've got Villas or whatever card on the field that's going to help you ping your opponents down. You're going to gain a bunch of life. You're going to put all your mana into this, gain a ton of life, and then just ping your opponent down for a lot. So this is a win condition. If you have it mid-game, use it as a just a board wipe to get rid of all their artifacts and enchantments. So it's a good situational card to have. It is kind of expensive, which is why it kind of is like, put it in the deck if you don't have anything else you need, because it can win you games. But if you do have something you would rather put in, this card can get cut and it won't affect the deck's performance at all. Next we have Sanguine Sacrament. It is a base 2 cost instant where you can gain twice X life. Put it on the bottom of its owner's library. So basically you're going to pay a bunch of mana into this card and gain basically 2 times that amount of life. So this card is part of a win condition to where if you have enough mana, you can gain enough life so that you can then be above the 50 life threshold to shoot your opponent with Aetherflux. If Veto's on the field and you're somehow able to gain 20 life, you can kill your opponent in one shot. More than likely, though, you're just going to be paying however much into your into this card to have Veto just finish off your opponent. So super, super good card to have. Use it wherever you need to. If you need to use it just to gain a bunch of life so your opponent doesn't win, that's fine. If you can, though, use it as part of your win condition. And then we go on to our lands. So we do run 10 plains, 1 Thriving Heath, 1 Bazooka Bod, 1 Pyrexian Tower. Obviously, the Pyrexian Tower is here to get my bigger cards or Liesa out quicker than they should be able to. 10 Swamps, 1 Thriving Moor, 1 Bright Climb Pathway, 1 Caves of Kolos, 1 Forsaken Sanctuary, 1 Godless Shrine, 1 Isolated Chapel, 1 Orzhov's Guildgate, 1 Scored Barrens, 1 Snowfield Sinkhole, 1 Setlit Marsh, 1 Temple of Silence, 1 Command Tower, and 1 Reliquary Tower. So all in all, this deck is really heavily creature focused. We do run 36 creatures and 36 lands. So hopefully you guys enjoy the games, and I'll see you in the outro.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. Make some progress, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb. I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I won't give back up. Cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
Hey guys, so I decided to leave this video in because it's not a video I normally put into these videos, but I decided that it was good enough that it needed to be shown. Because this video really shows that this Liesa deck is really good at recovering. Also, why a good-looking hand is actually sometimes a trap. Because as you will see during this video, I get absolutely land screwed. Which is why I normally say, like, if you don't have 3 or more lands, just kind of ditch the whole hand. I do make it kind of work, and I was lucky to top deck a land, but as you'll see, not having the colors I need, not being able to get, all these really nice cards out on the field quickly, does kind of come back to bite me. So my opponent is able to get pretty far ahead, and you'll kind of see he continues to get farther and farther, and I'm just trying to get my mana base fixed, trying to get stuff online. Like, I'd like to get my book out, I'd like to get my Liesa out. I can't because I just don't have the correct colors, or I didn't have them at the beginning of the game. Luckily, I did draw the locket, so I was able to kind of fix my hand, but it was kind of touch and go for most of this game. Another thing you can see, like, I have to really think about, okay, how can I play this, right? So I do play Heliod here to try to get something going. Like, I can try to start playing my book, my Rhinox, and hopefully get him to become a creature. Also, if I'm able to gain some life, he'll start putting counters on everything, which was, I think, the correct idea. But you look at my opponent's board, right? He's already got 3 creatures out. He's starting to swing. He then bounces Heliod to my hand. And at this point, I'm considering, like, do I just scoop? Because I'm in a really bad situation. However, I know that this deck can come back from these kind of situations, so I continue to play on. Like you see, I'm down to 11. Luckily, I top deck another land. I'm able to play my Book of Exalted Deeds, and here I just need a blocker, so I play my Blood Artist. Now, my opponent's board is incredibly strong, and here he says GG, thinking he has game. He does make the mistake, though, of sacrificing his creature to kill my Blood Artist, which does give me some life, and I'm able to live with 1 life, which is awesome. That also puts me down low enough that my artifact transforms, and now I have some options. So I'm able to play Liesa the Forgotten Archangel, and I do cast Revival, the one time I've ever used it, to bring back a creature. So I bring back my Blood Artist. Now I have 2 blockers. For whatever reason, he only swings with 1 creature. He could have swung with both, but it just would have healed me more, which is why I guess he didn't do it. Killing it, though, my Blood Artist, though, does bring it back to my hand. Now I'm able to play Heliod. I'm able to play Rhinox. I swing with Liesa, and boom, I'm back up to 10 health, and I get a +1 counter on my Rhinox Faithmender, and I get an Angel. So this video, like I said, is a really good example of how once you've got your board established, you can just recover from a position where basically I was dead. If I didn't gain that 1 life, I lose the game there. Just kind of lucky that my opponent killed off my Blood Artist. And here he casts Mind's Desire, tries to get something going. However, at this point, I really don't care. I can actually win the game from here. I have all the pieces in my hand, and my opponent surrenders.
girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done. Girls with their
And there you go, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed those videos in the deck profile. You guys got to see stuff like my Johnny's Primate, Voice of the Blessed, and Bloodsoaked Aerialist getting pretty big. You also got to see the Johnny token also come in and be pretty big. And you got to see also how this deck just can recover from being, at one life, which I thought was a really good game to include. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any good games with Veto in it, becoming a win condition, but it is what it is. This deck can be actually kind of aggro, which I do love. If you guys do want to see my Aetherflux Reservoir and my Sanguine Sacrament come into play, I apologize now in advance. Go check out one of my earlier videos that I posted. It was the first IRL video I did. So like I said, I do apologize for the quality of the video. However, I was able to switch life points with my opponent after he got me really low, casting Green Sacrament, gain like 6 life, and then shoot my opponent in the face with Aetherflux Reservoir. It was really funny, and it did result in my Aetherflux getting chucked across my bedroom. But it was a good example of how this deck can work. Also, you guys got to see Masquerade come in and just be an absolute OG. If you want to see another example of Masquerade doing that, either go check out my TikTok where you can see him come in and just absolutely ruin someone's day, or go check out my Tesa Karlov video where she does it again. Also, in that Tesa video, you got to see how good my Revive and Revenge card was, as I was able to use it to lower my opponent's life points and then just swing for games. I think they were Flying Angel tokens. I don't really remember. But that is the deck profile and games. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, if you guys have any ideas on cards I should include in the deck and what cards I should take out, drop them down below. I love to read them. I like to make my decks better. I actually have had some new cards added that have been added into MTG Arena that I will be putting into some of my older decks, and I'll be doing some revised deck text now that they've included those cards. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.